next session, let me introduce Miyuru Gunarathna, a third-year software engineering undergraduate, and Upendra Ihalagedara, a third-year software engineering undergraduate and a full-stack developer at Crystal Software Development. They are going to brief us about front-end with Angular. Screen is all yours, guys.
Hello guys, and welcome to the ITP 3.0 again. So my name is Upendra Ihalagedara, and I'm a third year software engineering undergraduate. So so far what you guys have done is you guys saw how to create the backend application using Spring Boot in order to create those APIs and interact with the database. So from here onwards, we are focusing on the front end part, which is to call those APIs and get the data and represent them in the browser. That's like the basic idea. So when we talk about the front end, there are so many like technologies we can use, like frameworks and libraries. So for today's session, what we have selected is the Angular as our front end framework. So without any further ado, let's dive right into the Angular and see what we can do with these things. So first of all, what is Angular? Angular is actually a application design framework and development platform for creating efficient and sophisticated single page apps. So bear with me for a moment with this word single page apps. We will show you what is single page app, the concept of it and the idea of it when you start the implementation and other things. So other than that, we can consider as our Angular as a component-based framework for building scalable web applications. So if I give you a brief idea about what the component-based framework and scalable web application is. So for an example, if you take a web page, a particular web page, rather than looking at it like a whole one component, we can just divide it into some component actually. For an example, if we have the navigation bar in the top, we can consider it as a header component. And when we have the footer in the bottom, we can consider as the footer component. And let's say we have a grid component in the middle of the header and the footer components. So likewise, we can consider it as a component-based framework. And other than that, actually Angular is an open source, also based on TypeScript, which is a superset of JavaScript. So if you guys are not familiar with what TypeScript is, there's not much actually. If you are familiar with the basics of the JavaScript, you guys can just start work on those things. Other than that, there are some extensions and features that you can use. So you guys can go to the official documentations and just get the idea. So one of the main things that I want to highlight in here actually, this simplifies the binding code between the TypeScript object and the the HTML UI element. So this is also something that you have to keep in mind, because this is something really important in Angular. And also we will show you clearly what does this mean when we start the implementation. So just keep this in mind for this moment. And also the Angular is built and maintained by Google. So if I move to the next slide, these are things we are going to cover today. Actually, we are not going to talk about all of the features and concepts in the Angular because we don't have much time. So basically we will cover the overview of it, and we will talk about what components, modules, services, and HTTP data binding and concepts like dependency injection. I mean, it doesn't matter you are going to create a simple web application or a complicated web application. There are some basic things that you have to know. So we are trying to give you the all of the basic idea that we must give you, because otherwise it won't be successful one. So if you see the diagram over here, this is how the components, modules, and the basic things of Angular are going to interact with. So in the the blue color area, we have the component, which is what we have talked before, like the header component and all of those stuff. And mainly it is consists of two parts, which is the HTML template itself and the code. So code is actually the TypeScript file that we are going to implement our logic and all of those stuff. and it is interacting with something called the service. Service is actually some kind of common implementation for the entire application. For an example, let's say we need to have some kind of validations, some kind of calculations, or maybe server calls. So if we have that kind of scenario, what we can do is we can put those implementations in a one file, and we are going to access them throughout the whole application, like in every component that we want. Services, yeah, the idea of service is something like that. Other than that, we have the HTML template that it also interact with the something called directives and something called like child components, concepts like that. Again, we are not going to actually talk about directives in here. We will tell you what the directive is and how to use those things when you start the implementation. So bear with us a moment while we are starting the implementation. So yeah, other than that, there is something like really important, which is the module itself. So yeah, just to give you an idea about what a module is, let's take a scenario like we have to create a particular like a feature. So in that case, maybe that feature requires some set of components and services, right? It can be 2 or 3 or more than that. So in that case, what we are going to do is we are going to take all of the components we need, all of the services we need, and we are going to bundle them together and put it in a module. So in that case, we can consider it like a bucket or a container, yeah, something like that holds all of the components and services that we want for a particular feature. So yeah, other than that, we have the routing, which is to, like, if we take the previous example, the web page that we talked before, let's take a scenario like we are going to click a tab or a link in a navigation bar. So in that case, let's say we want to replace the grid component or the middle component that we talked before with another component. So yeah, in that case, we can use routes and all of those things. And other than that, we can have uh, modules, components, and created by ourselves. So yeah, this is like the basic idea and the overview that we want to give you before we start the implementation. So otherwise you can be lost inside our demonstration. So just keep this in mind, not in detail. So yeah, you can get the clear idea after starting the demonstration. So if I move on, yeah, this is like the architecture view of Angular, not like the everything that we talked before, because other than that, there are some kind of features. There are some kind of like concepts that you actually need to know in order to do your projects. Uh, so yeah, this is like the architecture of it, using all of these like concepts and yeah, technologies. So we have property binding, event binding, and yeah, there are some example. There are like two-way binding and concepts like that, and also like the dependency injection is something like really important. I mean, with the use of those things, you can just do your project very easily. It doesn't matter it's a complex one or it's a simple one. These are things will be like really helpful. So yeah, this is like the architecture view, and we are not going to talk deep about these things in here. So if I move on, yeah, that's like the brief idea what we are going to do and what kind of process happening inside the technology Angular. So yeah, without any further ado, yeah, let's dive right into the demonstration. So before we are going to start the or create our application, there is something that you have to do, which is to set up the environment in your local machine or in your computer. So for that, first of all, most you need to install Node Js and Npm. Yeah, Node Js and Npm is not like totally different things. I mean, and Npm stand for like the Node package manager itself in order to install the dependencies and packages that we want. So uh, for the time being, actually, we are not going to show you how to install Node.js and npm. It is something like a not big step. You can just go to the internet and search, and you will be able to find out the way to do it. So yeah, again, it's not like rocket science. Just search on the internet, you will be able to find it. So yeah, other than that, the other main thing that you need to do is actually uh, install this Angular CLI in order to create our project. Uh, for that, Yeah. So, guys, the thing you have to do is just go to your command prompt or the PowerShell that we are using, and there is a small command to install the Angular CLI. It is npm install -g, and the name will be at Angular CLI. So here, actually, npm is the thing that we have talked before, like the Node package manager, and I stand for install. Actually, we need to type install in here, but if you are using the just letter I, it will work also, and the -g represent the to install globally. And yeah, that's all about the command. So once you press enter, it will start installing the Angular CLI. And actually, this can be also take some time depending on your internet connection you have. So again, for the time being, we have already installed Angular CLI. So we will terminate the process from here, and we will proceed with the next step. So, I mean, that's all you have to do. Just run the command and your Angular CLI will be installed. And yeah, Angular CLI is actually there to like build and develop your project. So so you should install those things. Yeah. The other thing is actually to initialize, so they create the application that we want. So for that also we have a small command which is ng new and the name of the application that we are going to use. And yeah, in this command there are some kind of restriction that we when we are using, like we can't have some kind of white spaces, but yeah, white spaces and spaces. So just keep this on your mind when you are going to create your application. Yeah, the syntax is or the format is just simple. Just type this command and you'll be good to go. So yeah, once you type this command and press enter, it will start installing the packages and all of the stuff. And before that, it will ask to add Angular routing. So I think you guys can remember the thing that I talked with you about the routing. So in this case, we are going to say no for that, because since we are going to build a small application, we don't necessarily use Angular routing. So we will say no, and then it will ask what kind of styling we are going to use. Yeah, here we are going to use the cascading styling sheet. So we will select CSS, and once you press enter, it will start downloading the necessary files that you require. So yeah, this process itself actually takes some time, maybe up to 2 to 3 minutes, depending on your internet connection. So for the time being, actually, we are already created the application. So, and then yeah, since we are using the Visual Studio Code as our code editor, uh, we are going to open our project, or the boilerplate that we have created using Angular CLI um, in the Visual Studio Code. Okay. Um, for someone who is like really new to these things, like frameworks and libraries and technologies like this, can get kind of lost inside these things, because whenever you're going to see this file structure for the first time, can be think like this is like a complicated thing. So and in this demonstration, we are like not going to touch all of the files actually. We are just, we will spend the time in the source folder, but it's really important to have idea about what kind of configurations and what kind of stuffs inside this file. So yeah, if I start from the bottom, actually we have the tsconfig file, which is for the TypeScript configurations, and you don't have to be like know a lot about this file. It is like what kind of to what kind of versions that should compile in order to run those things in web application. Yeah, this kind of configurations we can find inside. And other than that, yeah, package.json file. This is something like really important. Inside this, we can find the runtime dependencies we require in order to run the application. So this is like really important, and we are not like doing much kind of edit or change these things. So yeah, whenever like we are going to install some packages or dependencies, yeah, they will be visible here. Yeah, other than that, we can find some kind of scripts that we are going to use, like whenever we are going to start the application, build it or test it. So yeah, those kind of configurations will be there. And then we have something called package lock.json, which is to yeah, the basic idea is to lock the versions that we are using, lock the versions of the dependencies that we are using. So in that case, in case of you guys are like interacting with the team when you are implementing a project, you will it will make sure every one of the teammates will have the same version of the dependencies or the packages you are using. Yeah. Other than that, Angular.json is like the configurations, basic configuration for the Angular, which says like I can define the root folder, what kind of prefix we are using when we are building or creating components or modules. And other than that, it will say I can define the main file, which is the first script that we are going to execute when we are going to start the application. Yeah, these kind of configurations we can find inside this, and we are not going to actually touch those things. We will keep them as it is. So yeah, then we have the techno file, which says what kind of things that we need to like ignore when we are like push these things to GitHub. Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, the main file is like the source folder. This is where we are going to spend most. So yeah, the app is like the component provided default by the Angular CLI for us. Inside that, we can find out the app module, the app component file, and also like the HTML file itself. So guys, the app component TS file itself, like the code that we have seen in the diagram, and the HTML file itself, like the HTML template that we are using. So if we go to the app component file, yeah, if I go to the app component file, you can see like the basic structure of it. Mainly, we can consider this as three sections. The first one is for imports. Of course, we are importing the component decorator, and yeah, you guys get the idea of a decorator later. And the second section is like the decorator that we are using. Right inside that, we can see some metadata like select template URL, style URL, and stuff like that. And selector itself is like the tag name that we are using in order to like identify uniquely what component we are using. So other than that, as a third section, we have the class we are using. So then we have the app module file, which is provided by the Angular CLI. In here also we have some kind of imports. In here, the first one is actually the decorator itself for the module. Yeah. Then we have the decorator as the second section, having the declarations, imports, providers, and bootstrap. Uh, if I give yeah, the bootstrap is like it's like the it says what is the first component that we need to like load or the execute when like we are going to run this program. So providers we use for like services that we are using, and then yeah, then we have the class. So this is yeah, in the environment we have like the environment folder, which is to keep our some kind of variables. For an example, let's say we are calling a server, right? So in that case, we can define our URL inside this, and we can access throughout the components we are using. So yeah, that's like the basic idea about the folder structure we are having. So other than that, there's actually not much, and we are not focusing on other files that much. So I think Miyuru, we can start the implementation from here, right?
Yeah. So thank you, Upendra. So my name is Miyuru Gunarathna. I'm a third year software engineering undergraduate and the editor of the MS Club of SLIIT. So today we are going to implement the front end for our Todo Web. So before moving to that, I will show you the UI design I used in Figma. So today I'm going to implement this UI and the connect backend Shehan and Shivani implemented. So the time we have, we only implemented two functions, and as a CSS framework we use Tailwind CSS. So as a first step, I need to configure the Tailwind CSS framework. So for that, I will go to this site. In their documentation, they provide the guidelines to install, configure the Tailwind CSS. So as you can see, it's a framework guides. And go there and select the Angular, and these are the steps to configure the Tailwind CSS in our Angular project. So as these two steps we don't need because we already created our project. So as a next step, I will copy this command and run it to add the Tailwind dependency to our project. So I open the command prompt. I will just simply copy and paste the command and just enter, and it will install the package. And in the meantime, I will copy next command to generate the Tailwind CSS config file. So after finishing the install package, I will just copy and paste the copy this command and paste it here and hit enter. And now you can see there is a Tailwind config JS file. So as a next step, uh, we want to add the path to our config file. So in here I will add and save it, and as a next step we have to add these Tailwind directories to our main CSS file. And that's pretty much all to configure the Tailwind CSS. So now if I run this project using ng serve command, it will take 1 or 2 minutes. I will say yes.
Yeah, while it is building, guys, if you guys are like confused with the word Tailwind and like the technology like that, it's also like the CSS or the cascading styling sheet that we used. Like maybe you guys are familiar with the Bootstrap and all of those stuff. So the idea is actually we are trying to like introduce you a new technology to use those things, and so it's kind of like easy for when it comes to use those things. So yeah, I just want to tell you that otherwise maybe you guys are not familiar with those things.
Yeah. And now it's building, and yeah, now it's run. So let's go to this URL, and this is the boilerplate they provided, so we don't need that. And in the app component HTML, you can see this HTML, so I don't need that. And so as a first step, I need to create another component to implement the to do app. So to do that, I will just run a command to generate a component as to do. G stands for generate and C stands for component, and to do is the component name, and I will hit enter, and it will generate a to do component here. So next I will add this selector to our root component, for app to do, and here you can see to do component HTML in the to do works. So we will edit in here and we see if it is working. Yeah, to do works. So now we have to implement the UI. So before going to that, I will wrap in this class. Screen for the view height of the window, and mx auto for horizontal margin, and the bg color will be slate 900, and I will add it inside here and save it, and now go to this component and go to the UI. And zoom out a little bit. Yeah, and I will hide this tab also, and now I have to implement this. So first I need to wrap all this in a div. So I will need this mx photo, and padding will be p8, yeah, go with that. And I need h3 tag for this title, and yeah, there is another thing I need to add this width. So to do that I will just say max width pxl, and as a next step I add the h3 tag and add the css class to it as a size text pxl, and color as text purple 500, and the margin bottom size 5, and I will add the text as to do list. And now I completed this, and I have to add the 2 buttons. So to do that, they are in a row, so I need to wrap this button in a flex row. So to do that I will add the display type as flex and the flex direction as row, and the gap between them as size 3, and the margin bottom will be 2, and I need to create a button, and the button class will be horizontal, and the vertical padding will be 2, and the bg color will be slate 800, and the opacity will be 75, and the text color will be white, and the border radius will be rounded. Yeah, now I think it's okay, and I will add the text as pending. Yeah, I will copy that and paste in here and change this as completed. Now I will create this add button. So to do that I will need the form, and I don't need this action, and inside here I will wrap all things in div, and as I will use flex, and the flex direction as row, and the background will be slated, and the border radius will be rounded, and the content between content is justified sorry, between um, um, yeah
Uh, like little bit of interruption. Miyuru, do we need to add opacity in here?
capacity 75. And before going to add this icon, to I'm come to this before come to this session, I will download these icons and save in here. And now I'm going to add these icons to our asset folders. Yeah. And now I need to add this image. So as a class we use tx2, and the src will be the asset folder icon, add icon. So it will be add icon, and inside the middle of this there will be a input. I have this as input text, and the class will be text white for the text color, and I will add as background color as bg transparent. I need to add some horizontal padding. And I need to draw this, and text white, beige transparent, padding.
Yeah, I think we are missing like the outline.
Yeah, outline will be none. Name will be description, and we don't need an ID, so it's a required field, and the placeholder will be add task. And
Yeah, Miyuru, is it like read only or required? I think.
sorry, required. And as to the save button, I need a button. Inside it I will add the image, and it will be save image. Yeah, now I think it's I did this part and this part in the UI. So just run it and see how it look like. Save, and I need to restart the server to build the CSS classes. Yeah, it's building. Yeah, now we can see we good to go. As a next step, I need I need to connect with the backend to call APIs and uh, request some data. So to do that, I will go to our backend part, and I will already clone this backend, and in the I open in the IntelliJ, and now if I run this, I can see it's running on the port 8080. So I need this URL to communicate with the backend. So to do that, I will add in the environment variable as an environment variable called base URL, and the URL will be a string and the port number will be 8080. Yeah, now I'm good to go with the URL. So as you can see, I will need I fetch this model in the backend, so I need an interface for that. So I will just create an interface using the Angular CLI ng generate the face in the shared folder as a interface. You can see in the shared folder there is a file called interface. Now I will rename this as I to do, and I to do is a model like this. So we need an ID, description, and status. So I will add it in here. ID will be a string, and description, script, description will be a string, and the status will be a boolean. Now interface is already done, so now I need to create a service to call communicate with the backend. So I will generate a service using Angular CLI. The command will be ng generate service. I will put this service in a folder called core, and the service will be data. Yeah, now you can see in the core folder there is a file called data service ts. So this is our data service to communicate with the backend servers. So before going to start, we need the URL to communicate. So I will just create a private variable called URL, and earlier we saved the base URL in the environment file. So now to sim- to simplify the things, I will assign the environment variable called base URL to our private URL attributes. So it will be environment dot base URL. Yeah. And now we need to communicate with the backend. So there are some methods called get, post, update, and put, delete. So to do that, I will need some services. So in the Angular, they provide a service called HTTP client. So in the constructor, I will create a private property called data, no, HTTP, and I will create as a HTTP client they provided. So if I type the HTTP client, there is no import option, so I need to manually import that. So to do that, I will just type import and add the curly brackets, and from as I can remember, it's in Angular common folder, and yeah, it is the HTTP. Now if I go inside the curly brackets, if I press control and space, you can see the method they provide. So I will choose HTTP client, and now I assign this in HTTP client. Yeah. As a next step, I need to send task in here to our through our backend. There is a method called create to do, and it will be a post. So now I need to create a method as add to do, and it will be accept to do, accept a to do object, and the object type as a I to do interface, and it will return observable. They return a string, so it will be an observable string, and the body inside we need to communicate this as a post request. So to do that, I will just get the HTTP client using our variable called HTTP, and if I press a dot, and you can see there is a lot of methods I will use to use this post method. And in the post method, you need to pass you need to add three parameters. As a first parameter, I need to add the variable URL. So here URL, in the environment variable, I only add the localhost port 8080, and this request mapping also added as extension, so I need to add the to do. Next, I will add here to do. Now URL is okay. I need to pass the object here. The object will be to do, and now I need to specify the response type. Response type will be a string, so it's a text. So we'll define it as a response type just text, and now I need to get it as a JSON. Yeah, and now I need to return this, and I need to specify the return type. It's a string. Yeah. So now if I add quickly the get to do's method also, they will provide a list of to do's. So we'll get to do's, and I don't need to pass any parameters, as you can see in the get mapping. I will say I will put it as empty, and the return type will be observable. They will provide the array, so it will be a I to do array, and I need to return this, and I will call the HTTP client and the get method. Now they provide the return the list of to do. So now I only add to URL. We need to add the URL and the to do, and also I need to specify the return type. It's a I to do array. Yeah. Now it's done, and then as a next step we have to import this service in the app module as a provider to use in anywhere in this application. So as a next step we going to connect the UI to our service. So to do that I will need some modules to do that. Now I import it as a form modules to our forms, and the HTTP client module to communicate with the APIs, and the common modules also. Now if I go to here, so there is no functionality, just a UI. So now I'm going to add the functionality to this UI, and so to do that I will need this data service. So I will create a private variable called data service, and I will service, and I will assign to a data service before we create a data service. Yeah, and now I'm going to create the add function. So I want to access in here, so I will use this as public method called add to do, and I will accept the value in here form. So before implement this function, I need to add some things here. This is add to do form, and it will be a ng form. Before, if we didn't import this forms module, if I try to define this as ng form, you can see an error. So before going to that, first I import this form module in our app module. So now I'm not getting an error. So I will just in here you can identify this form uniquely, and the form will be a ng form. And now I'm going to this function. I will accept the add to do form, and the form type will be a ng form, and this return type will be void. Yeah. Inside the body, I need to call this service earlier we implemented. So now I will call this service using data service, and there is a method called add to do earlier we implemented, and I will pass this add to do form value in here. To do form dot value, and now I have to subscribe it to get the response, and the response we getting I will put inside the variable called response, and the response will be a string. And if I put in here arrow function, now we add the to do, we want to see some output. So I will console log for now the return value response, and after we adding the to do, I need to reset this form as well. So we copy this and paste in here and reset this. And if we add the to do, we want to see it in a glance, so we can't do it now because we didn't implemented the get to do yet. So after we implement this, I will add it in here. Now if there is a error occurred in the getting response, I will need to handle also. So if error happen, I will put in this variable called error, and it will be here http error response, and I will just add the arrow function and alert the error message. Yeah. And I will save it, and now we have to add the event trigger. So it will be a ng submit, and the method will be add to do. Add to do, and it accepting the ng form value. So I need to add it as a ng model. I didn't do that, they don't take this input value here. And now I think it's pretty much all to add something, and now we will check it in front end. So I will, if I go to a console log and I will clear it, if we add a task properly, there will be a response. So let's try it out. This is test. If I go to console log, now you can see the our input will be saved in our DB, and that's pretty much all in the add function. Now we are going to implement the get to do's function. So Upendra, are you in?
Yeah, I will. Yeah. So guys, so what we have done is actually we implement the add form add to do's method, so that we can just type it in and click the button, and it will be saved in the database. So from now onwards, what we are going to do is we are going to retrieve those to do's that we are going to post from the database, and we are going to display them on the browser. Actually, if I go to the Figma file that we have created, you can see clearly a list of items inside that. Yeah, this. So now actually we are going to implement this part. For this, yeah, first of all, let's go ahead and create the UI part from the HTML file. So for that, yeah, first I will create a wrapper class with the margin bottom 4. So other than that, the add form and the thing that I'm going to actually implement is pretty much same. For that, we will copy the add form UI that we have created, and we will do the necessary changes. Yeah, okay. From here, we need to actually we need to change the image first. It will be not be add image. It will be yeah, it will be unchecked image, and that will be also an between anchor tag. Yeah, anchor tag, and in here actually we are not we don't need an input field, right? So for that, the thing is actually we need to display the data that we are getting from the database. So for that, we will create a p tag instead of the input area we have. Yeah, we will clear up the input area, and we will create a p tag here. The class will be grow, and for now actually we will represent it as hello, and once we are calling the functions and all of those stuff, we can just display those things in here. So other than that, we need to actually change the last icon also. It will be also an anchor tag. The image is for delete, so for that we will change the image as well. Yeah, then I think that's all about the
Yeah, we will see
list item. Yeah, that's all about it, right?
No,
No, you're missing the text color here. Yeah, you miss the text color actually. It will be white.
And also we need some padding, I think.
Yeah.
It will be 5, 3.
So yeah, that's like a one item that we are displayed in the Figma file that we have created. So what we are going to do is we are going to call the service that we have created, and once we are getting data, we are going to iterate through this particular area that we implemented, And yeah, we will be able to show those things on the browser as you guys show in the Figma file that you have created. So I think, yeah, there are some missing classes. Okay,
Yeah.
now I think
Now
it's okay, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The next thing actually, we need to implement the service file that we have created, but the we have already done it in the previous part. So yeah, what we are going to do is we will just use those things now in a component. So yeah, if we go to those component, in here we need to create the method to get to dos. So it will be public, and the name will be get to dos, and yeah, it will be a void. So inside this method, what we are going to do is we are going to call the method that we have created inside the service. So it will be this dot data service dot get to dos, and we are not like accepting any kind of argument here. So we will subscribe to it in order to like get the notifications, and then we will take the response, and the response will be an I to do array actually. In the act to do we didn't like act to do it is just a string, but here it will be I to do array. And yeah, we create the arrow function, and inside this we will what we are going to do is we are going to assign the response that we are getting to a specific array that we are going to create. So for that, yeah, we will go and create an array. It will be public to dos. The name is to dos actually. And it will be an I to do array, type array. So for now we will assign it as an empty array. So yeah, again, if we go to the method that we were creating, what we are going to do is we will assign the response that we are getting to this specific array that we have created, so that we can access this array inside our the UI part. So yeah, we will console of the response first, and then we will check whether if there are any errors. If so, I mean, we will take the error and alert it on the browser. So it's pretty much actually same with the add to do's method that we have created. So we'll copy paste it. Yeah. Yeah, actually, other than that, once we created the get to do's method, there is something that actually we need to do first. We need to put it inside the ng on init. The reason for that is whenever we are going to start an application, we need to make sure we are getting those data and we are representing those things in the browser. So there is something else actually. We need to call this method inside the add to do's method also. The reason is whenever we are going to post a to do, we need to show it as a list. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all in the component file.
Let me restart the server.
Yeah. So now what we have to do is actually we need to get this the to do array that we have created to the HTML file, and iterate through and just show the data that we are getting. So now, Miyuru, I think we need to implement the HTML part. So, okay, you are going to show the console part. Okay, we can do that. Yeah. Yeah, as you can see, you can get the response. So for the implementations, we will go to the HTML file, and here, as I like guys mentioned before, there is something called directives. So actually, what we are going to use it here. The directives that we are going to use is actually ng4. ng4 is like an inbuilt template directive. What it actually do is it helps us to iterate through an array or some kind of object and get the elements out of it. So to use that, we need to first have the asterisk mark, then ng4, and there is actually syntax or format. First, we have to declare something like a variable. It will be let and the variable name that we are going to use. So in this case, it is to do, and the next thing of, and the other thing actually the array that we have created in the component file, which is the to dos, right? Yeah, this is the array. So what we are going to do is actually we are going to access the array and get the element one by one. So now since we are can access those things, we can go to the the p tag and we can get the description of it. So basically you guys can remember we had the ID, description and the status. So what we need to represent is just the description. So we will get access it like this. So yeah, I think that's all from the
Yeah,
component.
yeah.
From
Earlier, I miss an S here. That's why
okay.
the the console log say there is no description.
Yeah,
Description
okay,
was
yeah.
none. Yeah. If I
So
save this, mm,
yeah,
now you can see the empty tag. If I now add some
yeah.
data,
Now we can go ahead and add some kind of a to do that we want to add. So yeah, we will add some like demo value here and edit.
yeah. Now
Yeah,
you
as
can
you can see, we are getting the like we are calling those method and we are getting the data from it. That's why it's like updating dynamically from here. So actually that's all about the like the demonstration we need to do from the front end. Again, we only did actually the read and the create part here. Other than that, we have already implemented the update and the delete part. For the time being, actually we can't spend much more time on here. So that what we have done is we created a repository in the MS Club organization, and we will provide with you the link so that you can access those things and get the whole idea. So
in
yeah, we'll
here.
provide the link, and other than that actually this is like the Angular the framework that we have used. So for some kind of a student that we are like really interested in like React, Node.js, Expresso and MongoDB, which is the one stack. So they can just go to the MS Club YouTube channel, and at there you will be able to find out the last ITP session which was conducted by the MS Club of SLIIT. So that you'll be able to find out the last iteration and which was about the master. So you can refer those things and you can get the help for your ITP guide as well. So yeah, again, that's like all from the front end part actually. And yeah, is there anything you need to add, Miro?
No, I think we cover all the things.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we covered actually all those things. So best of luck, guys, for your projects, and yeah, have a nice day.
And have a nice day, guys. Over to you, Gahana.
Thank you for that enlightening speech and that amazing session, Ayaz.